This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone, my name is Harikishan. I have more than 13 years of experience in developing enterprise applications using Java JTE technologies. Currently, I am a solution architect working on the customer solutions and product development and deployment. And from last 2 years, I've been working on various AWS deployments for the customers. So I thought I will use this platform to share that knowledge and also learn from other community. So I also have the certifications at the associate level where I could get solution architect and developer. And also I'm in the process of getting the professional level certificates for solution architect and DevOps. As uh, in this session, I will try to give an introduction to the cloud computing, and also I'll talk about different cloud providers we have in the market and how they are with the market cap. Then we talk about AWS introduction, and then we talk about history, and I will try to explain how the AWS global infrastructure is currently, and then we see how we can create a AWS free tier account from where we can explore different AWS services and start learning the deploying or developing applications in AWS cloud with working into the AWS management console. So if you are new to the AWS or cloud computing, you have never worked with, you can, from this session, you will be able to understand what cloud computing is, and you should be able to get started with your AWS journey. I try to cover those aspects in this session, but if you are already started using AWS and also aware of cloud computing, you can skip the session. But going through the session one more time will only uh, make sure you understand all the AWS, and you can also see how the global infrastructure is composed of and some very fundamental things. So let's start with what is cloud computing. Cloud computing is an on-demand availability of computer resources or data storage and computing power. Basically, it will help you to provision your servers on which you can install your applications. Application could be an enterprise application, or it could be a database server, or it could be a caching server, or you want to use it as a content server where you will be hosting your content like movies or your pictures. You can host them in there and make it available to the world using that. So basically, this cloud computing will provide you the required resources to develop and deploy and host your application. So imagine that we today, without cloud computing, what we are doing in our organization, basically, you will be having your own on-premise data center where the data center is filled with lot of racks and AC, uh, air conditioning, and in each rack you will be having a rack of servers located in it. And then on top of it, your IT department will install a virtualization software. Then they will provide you the required computing resources on demand for development, QA, and production. And your IT department is responsible for managing the entire hardware and the data center. And also, as you know, like procuring any new set up servers takes. It has to go through a lot of approvals and purchasing the required hardware, and then setting up the network, routers, and then allocating a new real estate space for the new hardware. So it all involves, and it may take months, and sometimes it may take like 2, 3 months. And at the end of the day, a development team or the product team has to wait for all the long waiting. But with the cloud computing, you can provision all the new servers with just matter of a button or through an online software. You should be able to select the required computing power and storage and processing power. With you will be able to select what you need. So you need not to overbuy or underbuy any of your computing resources. So basically, it was providing you the platform as a service. And also on top of it, some of the cloud providers now, they're also providing applications and softwares as service. So that which we will go through uh, later in this section, what softwares or applications are also available in the cloud. But the cloud computing, basically, it will provide you the required computing resources, hardware, and also the storage that is required for your business or application, right? So this particular thing I have copied from Wikipedia. So if you go to Wikipedia, you are going to get this definition. And also, this is in the third paragraph. This is how the AWS is defined cloud computing. Cloud computing is delivery of computing services, basically the servers. When it comes to servers, it could be an enterprise application server, or it could be a database server, or it could be a caching server, or it could be an analytical engine. So there are a variety of software services available in the market, which we will not talk about all of them. But yeah, you can imagine a software or a service or an application. You should be able to make it available through this cloud platform with the AWS today. Right. So at a high level, this is how the cloud computing is organized with. So basically, you have all your platform infrastructure and the storage and the required network and the required on top of it, the required database or the queue. If you're using some messaging broker, you will have your queues here. On top of that, you build your applications. Like you are working in a finance domain, you will build the application leveraging some of the hardware and infrastructure, and you build your finance related application. And also, like we talked about, object storage, where you can host some of your content like movies or episodes, like how the Amazon is hosting now. You can host them there. And this is how all this will be encapsulated inside the cloud, which is very agnostic to the outside users. And then from there, other the consumers would be you using a phone or a laptop, or it could be like there is an on-premise server which needs a particular service, finance service. It can also server can make use of this finance service using cloud. And also we can access these cloud services using a desktop or tablet, which I will anyway show you in this section, right? So this is how, I mean, you can imagine anything. You can put it inside a cloud. So basically, identity is something where, suppose you want to store your user database, or a company has like say 2,000 employees, and they want to keep their employees database securely in the cloud. They can keep those identity information also in the cloud, and you can manage from there. Or SSO authentication, like, so once you keep the identity here, like an LDAP system, they can use this as an LDAP system, and from there, for access to any other company-related information or an application, they can use this LDAP system to authenticate and authorize for that access, and they can provide that kind of solution as well using the cloud infrastructure or cloud computing. So going back to the cloud list of cloud providers, we have Amazon top in the list with market share of 31 or 32 percentage. And then we have Azure from Microsoft is having close to 17% of market share, followed by Google Cloud. Then we have Alibaba Cloud, and then we have IBM, and there are other clouds also, small cloud providers also in the market with a total of excuse me, total of 35%. So overall, these are the five dominant cloud providers we have in the market, and AWS is leading that, right? And also you can also go through how their revenues are in terms of billion. They're also doing very good in terms of the market cap and the revenues. They keep on increasing year on year. So this is a very good domain to be in, becoming a cloud developer or associate or technical architect or a designer. So all the IT infrastructure will be definitely moving to cloud, and we will have to understand how we can use these cloud platforms to securely provision those hardware or software services. Right. So this is a slide which I tried to put together to encourage you to learn more about how it is beneficial in terms of money or the salary. The salary may not be correct as it is, but if you look at the list of other certifications in the first column here, so AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate is almost top three, right? So, and you have AWS Certified Developer also in the top five. So definitely AWS certification will boost your chances of getting a good job and salary in the market. So I would also encourage you to understand this AWS concepts better, fundamentals better, and if you get one or two certifications, that will help you. Right. So having said that, let's jump to the AWS. So AWS is nothing but, like I mentioned, it is one of the cloud providers which will provide you a the hardware or computing power or the database storage or the storage, or it could host. It will help you to host your content on the internet with a secured cloud platform. And with AWS, you can provision the required hardware or an application or servers within seconds. And also, you need not to pay any upfront payment for the services you will be using. So you will be paying the bill as you use them. So there is no upfront investment is required for you to try something new. Like say, let's say you got a great business idea and which requires a database server and some web servers to be purchased. So what all you can do is you can provision the database and the server in the AWS, and you can try your idea, and if it clicks, you can expand your network and the customer base by adding few additional servers rather than purchasing or guesstimating the required number of servers upfront. So yeah, AWS has a very good user-friendly management console using which you can use your mobile phone also to provision your servers, or you can use your desktop with a very low, with minimum configuration. All you need is a browser using which you can log into the AWS management console. From there, you can start provisioning your servers, applications, and secure your applications, and you can do all the things that you can imagine in the computer world. right? So going to the history of AWS, how it started, how all it started. It all started in the year of 2003, where some employees in the Amazon they presented a white paper on how they can leverage the resources and providing inside the virtualization concept and how they can make the SQS is how can they make the hardware as a service, and they presented it internally and they tried it, and then they they launched their very first service that is called SQS. This is a kind of a messaging service where for mainly used for asynchronous computing. They used this service. That is the very first service, and then they launched in 2006. They launched AWS officially to be available. Then so many developers in the community joined and started developing the different AWS services. That's why you see there are so many services you see in the AWS Management Console. They all contributed to it. Then in the year of 2010, the whole Amazon.com, the retail software is moved to AWS. So basically what you see in the retail application, we do the shopping, Amazon shopping, all the websites and the backend infrastructure is moved to AWS, right? Then there is a hiccup in the 2011. There is one of the server is blocked in EBS server, which is the block storage server, is crashed, and that's why they remember 2011 for that purpose. Then and also in the 2012, the Amazon or AWS started reInvent conference that happens once in a year now. And then they have in 2013 they have certifications launched. Then in 14, Amazon is committed to renewable energy. That is a Go Green initiative. Then in the 2015, it has reached $6 billion, and then it has doubled in the next year. And then now recently, Amazon is putting their hands in the machine learning and artificial intelligence. So it all started from the year of 2013, and then by time here in the 2019, Amazon is already leading the market in the cloud computing and one of the leading cloud providers. So before moving to the further, so we will have to understand the building blocks of the AWS. So basically, AWS is built on top of regions. Basically, it has their data centers and available in many of the regions. And a single region is it could be a US region or Asia region or it could be London region. So it has their infrastructure spread across the globe, and that very fundamental element is a region, and where very basic element would be an availability zone, where you can say availability zone is a logical data center, but that logical data center could be built using multiple physical data centers. But for AWS point of view, you can think one availability zone is one logical data center, and each region will have at least two or more availability zones. And how this availability zone is built is they are isolated from each other. So a failure of one single availability zone does not mean that AWS services are not available in that particular region. So it can tolerate a failure of a single availability zone completely, but still customers will be able to use the AWS services in that particular region. but and also a single availability zone also within a is constitute of multiple physically data centers. So any particular single physical data center failure may also necessarily mean that that availability zone is crashed. So let's assume that single availability zone is built of three different uh, geographical location, but they may be very close to each other. But say a flood in a particular physical data center not necessarily mean that entire availability zone is failed. Right? Similarly, a single availability zone is isolated from other availability zones so that the services within that given region will be highly available. Okay, so these are the two very basic or physical infrastructure Amazon or AWS is using to build. So this is where their physical hardware or the racks, what you see in your organization lab, you see the same thing in this particular availability zones. But availability zone, they gave a logical data center, but it will consist of some physical data centers where they place their hardware and their routing, network routing, and the air conditioning. And also, it is protected by the physically with security, so it is highly secured uh, data center, I would call. Then it is the same for available in the different regions, and I will talk about how many regions in the next slide. But this is all the AWS services are built on. So as you can see, there are 21 geographic regions where AWS has their uh, availability zone. Like I said, a single region will have two or more availability zones. And also they are coming up with some new regions as well. But this particular slide will give that AWS presence is almost there in every corner of the world, right? So going back to the next slide, this will definitely give you a text representation, like the region and number of availability zones available. So we have in US East, we have North Virginia, where we have 6 availability zones, and Ohio 3, US West, California 3, and Oregon 4, and as Asia Pacific, we have in Mumbai, there are 2 availability zones. Like I mentioned, you can notice that mm, the minimum number of availability zones in any of the region you see here is 2. That's why I told the minimum region will have a 2 or more availability zone. That is only because, like I mentioned, a single it can afford for the failure of a complete availability zone. Still, you can have those AWS services available in that particular region. Like you take an example in for Mumbai, there are 2 availability zones. So let's say there is a flood in a particular place or region in Mumbai, location in the Mumbai, which causes that single availability zone is to be failed. Still, uh, the AWS services can be available in Mumbai because they have another availability zone which can serve the AWS services from that location. So yeah, so understanding this is very important. Like regions and availability zones, don't get confused with them. Availability zone, again, recalling it as a logical data center, which can comprise of many. It may comprise of many physical data centers, and availability zone is isolated from each other. So a failure of a single availability zone will not cause the AWS services down in that particular given region, right? So having said that, I will straight away go to the AWS Twitter account where I will talk about AWS is providing a free tier account using which you can uh, gain or learn the AWS services. You can also build your applications. You can also deploy your application with in the free tier. And there are 12 months you can use this services. And also, it is important you have to understand the limitations with the free tier account just to make sure we don't spend extra money on the for our learning or but there are services like machine learning or artificial intelligence to provision them. You may want to and spend some extra money to learn them or try them. But within the 12 months free tier account, the services are good enough to learn and experiment AWS services and applications. So, like some of the services, you can create a virtual machine in AWS, and you can start your virtual machine and install. You can select the required OS. It could be a Linux, a virtual Linux OS installed in it, or Microsoft Microsoft Server installed in it, or your Windows 10 installed in it, or you can also bring up your database server like Postgres or MySQL. You can bring the database server, or you can also use caching servers. And there is a concept called Lambda where you can execute your functionality without any server. That is a serverless architecture. You can define your functionality in a Lambda function, and then you can invoke them. So all these services, which are very popular in AWS, you can make use of them at free within the free tier limits. So you're signing up. The AWS requires you to provide your credit card information, but you will not be charged as long as you are using the AWS services within the free tier limit. So what is free tier limit? Basically, you need to understand what is free and what is not free. So straight away, I will show you the AWS free tier account. Let me walk you through some of the limitations. Like it says, explore more than 60 products and start building on AWS using the free tier. As I told, there are like EC2 is like a virtual machine. You can think of a virtual machine. You can create your virtual machine. For 12 months, you can have 750 hours of usage of your virtual machines. It could like Red Hat Linux or Windows 10. You can pick your OS and you can use the virtual machines here. S3 is a storage service. You can use like 5 GB of storage service. You can use it. RDS is a database server that also you can use like 750 hours for 12 months. You can use that. And like there are other services. All the cards, what you're seeing is one of the other AWS services we have in the AWS. So you will be learning them as you go through this series of sessions, which we will go through. But the most commonly used service will be EC2 and S3 and RDS and Lambda, and which of course you see them on the very top. But yeah, as you go through in the session, you will learn them. But all of them are available for your practice, and you can create and experiment. You can learn a lot about it, right? And signing up requires you to provide your first name, last name, and address, phone number, and email address. And also, you will have to provide your credit card information. But like I said, you will not be charged as long as you are using those services within the limits. So, having said that, let me go back to the slide. What I will also do is I will not show you the sign up steps here, but it is same as any other web application where you create your account. So you can or you need to create your account. because most of my upcoming sessions also will be using the AWS Management Console a lot, and it will be more hands-on. So I would definitely recommend you to have your account created as soon as you see the session. If not, you will be facing difficulties in understanding the sessions or follow the sessions. So let me log in to AWS account, what I have here, so that I can walk you through the list of AWS services available. So that will conclude our AWS introduction section. So I hope you will not have any problem in creating the account. Once you create the account, I will also walk you through some of the steps you have to do as soon as you create your account. And also I will show you the AWS Management Console dashboard to go through different services that are available. As you see now, I have entered my username and password, but still it is asking me some extra information that is called MFA code. That is, MFA stands for multi-factor authentication. I think most of you may be already using this functionality, but for those who have not used this before, multi-factor authentication is basically one more layer of security to protect your account. Say someone already cracked your password, so to protect them, restrict them not logging into your account, basically they will have to enter one more code that usually if you do your banking online transactions, they will send you a 6-digit code or 8-digit code to be entered. So similarly, this multi-factor code or authentication, you can install a software, mobile application called Authenticator, like one you get is in Google Authenticator, which I am using. So basically, you have to use your Google Authenticator, and that Authenticator application you can use it for so to see the code, and you can enter the code. So right now I'm entering my code from my authentication. It would have changed the code. Let me try again. Give me a second, maybe it would have timed out. Okay, so it is asking me to enter my password again. So I am entering now. Let me enter the authenticator. All right. Okay, so I have logged into my AWS account, which I have. So like I said, I have protected my account with multi-factor authentication. So this is also recommended for everybody to protect your account. I would recommend this because your account is linked with your payment card. So I don't want anybody who gets your access and they provision the servers or the AWS services which they need, which if it goes beyond the free trial limitation, you have to uh, make the payment. So that's why I recommend you to create multi-factor authentication. So this is what when you create your AWS account for the very first time, you will be given to a tab like IAM. IAM is a service which will secure your account, and also it will be the one which used to manage your AWS resources and allocate permissions to the various AWS services you will be using from this account. So for the very first time, what it says is you the very first time when you create your account, you will be providing your email address and the password. So that will be the root account for this your login. So that root account or the login will have superpowers, which means they can provision any AWS resources. So obviously, when you leverage or provision any AWS resources, that may cost money. So ideally, what AWS or IAM recommends is to have a dedicated individual users created here and give them the required permission. Let's say there is an IT department in your team who is responsible for creating the servers. So you can create a user called IT department, or you can create a group. Basically, it says IT department, and under which you can create the users and give them the permissions to create virtual machines. Similarly, there are some HR department is there to whom you have to give the permission to access the employee data. You can do that by having different appropriate users, and you can provide appropriate permissions to those users. So it is definitely not recommended to use to log into the AWS account with the root account or the email account you created, but rather you create a separate user and log in with that user so that that user will have a very limited uh, permissions and access to that. And whenever there is a requirement for a new permission or access, you will have to log into with your root account or the email account and give the appropriate permission to the user so that you can control the usage of AWS resources and avoid unplanned payments or costs associated with your AWS account. So that is one thing. And then you have to, like I mentioned, you have to add your uh, secure your account with mutual authentication. So you have to enable your multi-factor authentication. So right now I have, like I mentioned, I have one virtual MFA authenticator which I have installed in my mobile phone. So my mobile phone, I like a Google Authenticator. Let me show you what it is. Google Authenticator. So this is the app, something like this. You have to find and install if you are an Android user. But I'm an Android user, so I'm using Google Authenticator. But I'm sure there will be one for iPhone users. So all you have to do is once you install it, you will see the, I don't know, I can install it here as well. So basically it will have, let me show you that. Okay, so basically it is asking me to install in my phone itself, which anyway I have it. So it will have, once you open this this application, there will be a code will be listed here. That code you have to enter into your uh, login or sign in page. So that will protect like a two-layer security to your account, right? So this is all about securing your account. As soon as you create your account, you have to do this, have your mutual multi-factor authentication enabled, and then have your users created. So that will secure your account. Then coming to the services dashboard, this is how you see the different services available in AWS. You see there is compute service where you will be able to all the computing related services. Computing related services will be under compute. EC2 is nothing but, like I mentioned, mm, it's a virtual machine where you can provision the servers. Then you have ECS. a containerized service. Basically, uh, best it will have maintain your container-based applications like a Docker images and pods. You can have your Docker images defined here, and then it will manage that. And EKS is nothing but a AWS version of Kubernetes service, which you are aware of. And Lambda is basically a computing service which will allow you to execute your functionality without provisioning any servers. So Lambda basically promotes you the serverless architecture where you need not to worry about the server in which you have to run it, but you just worry about the business logic that needs to be executed, and that's it. So Lambda, we will talk about more on that, but this is a computing kind of service. Then on the storage, we have S3. S3 is a object-based storage service where you can store your files or pictures or videos in it, and you can make them available to the internet world. So there is version management, and there is a archival service like Glacier. There is S3 Glacier where you keep the data in S3 and you define the archival policies like move this content after 1 year to a less costly storage, that is the Glacier. So S3 is costly, but Glacier is little cheaper than S3. So you have to plan your archival strategy to minimize the cost. And then you have a storage gateway. This is also a storage related service. And on the security, IAM is identity and access management, which I also covered briefly now. And then you have certification manager and SSO. There are so many other services available under security. There is a directory service, which is nothing but your LDAP, if you worked with before. And then there are some analytics related services available here. Then there is a blockchain services. Then we have management and governance. Basically, in our legacy organization, IT department used to have some SNMP based monitoring system to do the element monitoring those network elements. But here we have a variety of monitoring and auditing services, which will ensure all the services that are provisioned within the AWS are monitored and secured. And you can define some alarms if there are some thresholds are met, like say there is a particular user is provisioning too many servers or consuming too many servers, but we have set a limitation, but that user is reaching those limits. You can set the alarm to notify a particular user or administrator using email address, using an email. You can do that with all the management and governance kind of services. So CloudWatch is one very mostly used in service to monitor the resources. Then we have CloudTrail. CloudFormation is another tool which will allow you to automate your AWS services provisioning automatically. And there are some license managers and trusted advisor will advise you your deployment, and it will see your deployment, and it will show you any security risks you have. And there is some inspectors. There are some other services. I see there is an inspector. Yeah, there is some inspector here that comes under security. So management and governance and security identity compliance will together will help you to protect your AWS deployment in the cloud. So basically, these two sections, I would say your IT department would love to work with. And whereas if you are a developer, mostly you will be working with compute and storage and analytics. And there are some notification things, SNS. Yeah. So there is application integration where multiple applications work together. So you'll have to be integrating them with a messaging broker or something like that. We have like Amazon MQ, like you say, it's a like a JMS kind of service, and then you have SMS where you can notify people using email or some other functionality. You can notify them, and then you have a queuing service where you can queue the operations or workflows. You can do a synchronized fashion of executing your workflow. You can use queue service. So you can use this for application integration. Then there are some machine learning services. And like I mentioned, if you're a developer, you will be leveraging application integration and then database, storage, compute. These are the functions. If you are like a machine learning guy, you can explore these services. Like I mentioned, the services available in the AWS are vast. So not every individual necessarily be having a very good understanding on each and everything, but depending on the stream you are in, you're a developer or a IT guy or a security guy, so you'll have to go to your respective section and try to cover those set of services that will help you to master well and do well in your organization. And also there are some network and content delivery. VPC is the core service available in AWS, which you'll have to have very good understanding. But these are all related to the network. Again, I would say it will partly come under IT, but if you are an architect or a solution architect, definitely you should have a good understanding on this entire section, as well as security, as well as compute and storage and their limitations and billing. Billing is another important information I would like to cover. But yeah, you can always, once you have your AWS account created, feel free to log in. And if you log in, they're not going to charge any money for you, so you can spend your time here. Like I definitely, when I first logged into the AWS Management Console for the very first time, I remember I spent like more than 2 hours to go through all the different services available. And if I click on any particular service, it will give me some information about it. I can also learn about it. There is a help and support is available. You can go to them to understand what it is. So definitely it is going to be a very good exercise for you to click on each and every service available here to get a good understanding. For example, I'm clicking here on EC2. So it will try to give you some information about that service. Let me see what you can correct. You should be able to get a help on the every service you pick it. Like I mentioned, you will have, we are getting started. So this will take you to the guide, EC2 guide. Similarly, that is available for each and every service available. So Amazon has done a very good job in documenting each and every service, so that even though you have not used the service before, you will be able to start with it, provided you understand the basic computer science concepts, right? Okay, so another important thing you need to understand is your billing dashboard. So keep an eye on your billing dashboard and make sure when you're practicing your exercises or the topics we cover in the future sessions, you may be practicing, but you always make sure that your billing dashboard is zero here. That means you're not basically using anything out of the free tier. So you can also do some cost explorer. You can, if it spend data for, there are some services, if you enable it, you're going to spend money in it. So be careful before enabling any service here. And there is one more tool which I would like to talk here, AWS calculator. So using with pricing calculator. So if you are not sure about the pricing, you can always go to the online. There is an online calculator. Let me go to the online. Yeah. So this particular online calculator will help you to understand or estimate your cost estimation. Like say particularly if you are in a solution architect or somebody who knows already what all services to be used. So basically you can add them here and get a estimation of your monthly bill. So this is free, so you're not going to spend any money on this estimation, but it will definitely help you to calculate or estimate your total cost for your application upfront. So I use this particular tool for my software or hardware estimation or cost estimation. This is also a definitely useful one. So the reason I'm giving more stress on the AWS is on the billing is you have to really understand. You need to really understand how it is going to cost if you make use of these services. So having a good understanding will definitely save you some money. So this is all I wanted to cover in this session. But believe me, you are if you are I am basically coming from a developer background, but I am doing solution architecture, so I will be able to cover many of the services that are will be used most commonly, and also we will be covering the containerized-based solutions like ECS and ECS also extensively in the going forward. But what you have to understand is understanding a very good understanding of EC2, which is the virtual machine in the AWS world, is very important, and also understanding VPC, that is the virtual private cloud. You need to understand that as well to master in usage of other services, because most of the other AWS services internally with built on top of EC2 and VPC. So understanding these two will definitely help you to gain a very good understanding of the remaining services, and you will be definitely mastering it. So that's the reason I will give more emphasis on the next 3 or 4 sessions on EC2 and VPC. And one more service is IAM, where you will be protecting your AWS resources. So a good understanding on IAM is also important. So I will be covering IAM in the next session. Then EC2, I will take 2 or 3 sessions. Then we will get started with the VPC. And thank you for listening to this session. I hope you will enjoy and you enjoyed this session, and we will be enjoying more in the future sessions. So first 4 or 5 sessions will be a mix of both theoretical where presentation and also the uh, practical, where I will be showing you what I did with the AWS console. But and going forward, once we cover those basic services, EC2, VPC, IAM, then we will take some of the services, popular services, then we will cover them. But they will be like very simple to use, but you should have the underlying. That is the reason I am stressing again and again. Try to have very good understanding on EC2, VPC, and IAM. So that will set you a very good platform to understand the remaining services. Thank you.